Greetings and welcome to Geeks Under Glass, where we take a closer look at all things nerd ephemera. Join us as our hosts, Drew and Thew, walk through the geekdom minutiae you never realized you cared for. Here they are with today's topic. Well, hello again, everyone. Another episode.
A somber one, but...
Yes. As I mentioned to you on Facebook, almost uncanny in its setup. We had decided after the last show that we were going to do a show based on our favorite video games across multiple platforms. And then obviously, as most of you will have known, and I'm going to do a hatchet job on his name, I greatly apologize. I believe it is Satoru Iwata, the president of Nintendo, passed away over the weekend at the age of 55. Many people probably know of his feats. Again, he was president 2 or 3 times of Nintendo. He was greatly influential in the creation of the Wii and in the creation of the Super Smash Bros. Franchise and all of the subsequent things that have gone on with that since. He did die far too soon. Did great things for the Nintendo brand, and he will be sorely missed.
Very.
Before we do get into that, though, I would like to say this. I have begun the process of writing a book, and I wanted to bounce the idea off of you. I don't know how much you would know about this. Under the Calvinist view of Christianity,
I would know very little.
okay. Well, that's why
I thought you were going to say Calvin and Hobbes.
No, that would be awesome.
Very awesome.
No, but under the Calvinist view of Christianity, basically, people are either they're basically predestined from the creation of the world by God to go to heaven. There is a group of people; they are known as the elect. Everyone else is allowed to continue in embracing their sin rather than turning away from it. However, I decided to take a different tack on this. I thought, what about beyond the elect that are going to heaven? If there are those whom God has chosen to use as his elect that they already know are destined to go the other way, and he uses them as and this is the working title, the necessary evil, where he would use them to track down and destroy certain, shall we say, mythological creatures. You know, your basic, your vampires, your werewolves, your demons, things of that nature. Because you need someone to track those down and destroy them, but you can't really use your elect for heaven.
So Van Helsing, basically.
Similar, very similar, but with no powers. Wait. I take that back with one exception. You know how, say, if you're bitten by a vampire, you become a vampire. If you're bitten by a werewolf, you become a werewolf.
He has utter immunity.
He has immunity to these effects. He gets bitten and he can certainly bleed to death. However, these people do not suffer the ill effects of such a bite, including, say, a zombie bite would not cause them to become a zombie.
Scandal.
Yes. However, unlike Helsing and like in the movies where he becomes if I remember correctly, is he not one that becomes...
All I remember from the Helsing movie was that one scene where the vampire is literally walking around the room, like floor, wall, ceiling, wall.
I believe he becomes a werewolf in that.
He might. The other thing I remember, they got the guy that got to play Frankenstein. Like, he had to have some background.
You mean Frankenstein's monster?
Yeah, the Frankenstein's monster. I committed the cardinal sin of...
You did.
Yes.
Mary Shelley is turning in her grave.
But the person that got to play Frankenstein's monster...
There you go.
Had to have a background in, if not opera, than at least operatic singing, because that was a melodic voice.
It's very distinctly possible, yes.
I remember like the weirdest stuff from movies.
Don't we all? But yes, I'm actually considering beginning a Kickstarter to get some help to be able to get this produced and then published.
That's Kickstarter.com.
Yes, eventually. Don't quote me yet because I'm not sure what the process is to do such a thing. But yes, that's just an aside. I thought people may enjoy. And if you have comments or you would like to crush my hopes and dreams, please feel free.
Gee, I wonder which one the internet will do.
Oh, of course.
But now,
Because everything on the internet is true and loving.
it is a kind and gentle place full of lovely people.
All right, on to our topic du jour. I thought, did you have a platform you'd like to start with?
I figured we'd work more or less in chronological order.
Okay.
Like, how far back do you think?
I was thinking not to go any further back really than say, I mean, we could do Atari if you like.
Oh, yeah, I already picked out my 7800 pick.
Okay, I was going to say, if you've got an Atari, go for it. I did not play much of the Atari at that time. My father was still in the service, and we did so much moving that that sort of thing was just not possible.
I had rich aunts and uncles, so
Oh, nice.
yeah. At the summer home, it was just fun.
Well, there you are. Well, please, by all means, take us away.
Okay. Food fight for the Atari 7800. Basically, you're a kid, you throw food at chefs, and you end each level by eating an ice cream. Okay, it's pretty simple. However, this is like the one thing that made it epic. If you did good enough, okay, if, I don't know how it like measured it, maybe it was just random. It would be like, let's see that again, and do an instant replay of your last playthrough with some cool, funky music. It does not take much to please me, obviously.
What is the old adage, simple minds, simple pleasures? There's something to be said for having a simple way of life.
Indeed.
In fact, my family's coat of arms says on it, be simple and be wise.
Ah, that's neat.
So, yes. Don't ask me to say it in the Latin because I could not do it for you, sorry.
Yeah, I speak very little Latin, and
Yes.
none of it is conversationally applicable.
Exactly. Mine is rusty enough that the bolts have come off. Well, I would say moving on to then, say Nintendo, the original NES. Two of my favorites of all time were the original Final Fantasy. I actually quite enjoyed that game. And Paperboy, where you got to run around throwing newspapers and smashing windows.
They made a 3D version of that game.
No, thank you.
It looked awful.
Yeah, no, I did not care for that. I actually went so far as to get the Nintendo emulator download on my phone simply for the Paperboy emulator game.
For me, it's a fairly simple Super Mario 3.
Yes, that was fun. I also enjoyed Super Mario 2, though.
Oh, it was good. It was good.
The whole Super Mario franchise has had few stumbling blocks in terms of its playability and its reception in the gaming community.
Wasn't crazy about 3D for the 3DS.
No, like I said, very few stumbling blocks. Didn't say any.
No. I don't know. I've always had a hard time controlling him in 3D.
Yes. Yeah, some things were just better as a side scroller.
Of course.
Although I enjoyed the Super Mario for the original Game Boy as well.
Oh yeah, Sarasaland.
Yeah.
Well, since we mentioned the Game Boy, what would you say is your favorite? And just for the sake of speed, we're including Game Boy, Game Boy Pocket, Game Boy Color.
Yeah. Honestly, I enjoyed the Kirby's and I enjoyed the Pokemon.
Oh yeah, Pokemon. That definitely appeased the little level grinder in me.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
But Harvest Moon 2. I am a sucker for that game.
I want to say I don't think I've actually heard of that one before. I'll have to look that one up.
You're going to be hearing it a little more later.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right. Well, why don't we move on a little bit further? Well, no offense, I'm skipping the Sega Saturn and CD and such.
oh yeah, well, how about just regular Sega?
Yes, the Sega Genesis. I enjoyed Doom. That was quite a bit of fun. Doom 2000 was okay.
San Dimas.
Yeah. The great downfall, however, for the later Dooms on the Sega Genesis was the downfall, I believe, of most of the Sega games ended up being the 32X system, where you plugged it in on the top. You had to hold two little metal rails in place, plug it on the top to expand it.
For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, just, I don't know, YouTube Angry Video Game Nerd 32X. I'm sure he goes into far better detail than we could.
Yes. Which made the gameplay almost impossible on most games. But aside from that, I also greatly enjoyed the NBA Jam, the original,
Yes.
and Golden Axe.
I didn't have a lot of access to a Sega, but again, my rich relatives paved the way, so for me, it comes down to just two games. Primal Rage,
I remember that game.
where
as well.
you are either a dinosaur or a monkey, and you fight other dinosaurs or monkeys
Yep.
to the death, while people run around screaming.
Yes. Oh, what was that one? Oh, jeez.
The other one, sorry, I don't know the name of it. It's if you remember Arkanoid or Breakout, imagine somebody took that style of gameplay and just slathered it in a lot of like Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering kind of imagery. Like you're shooting a ball and you're knocking down tombstones, which are generating skeletons, and you gotta defeat this demon. He's got horns and he's trying to get you, but he's not really moving because it's a Breakout game.
Of course. What was the one? I'm trying to remember. It was like done almost. It almost looked claymation. It had
Clay Fighters?
yes, Clay Fighters. I enjoyed that game as well.
I played the sequel.
Yes. I didn't care for the sequel as much as I cared for the original.
Well, I mean, the sequel I played a lot more, and I didn't own a Sega, so for the original, I didn't have Earthworm Jim.
Oh, I did have that game. I enjoyed that. That was okay. Yeah, the thing with that was that with the Earthworm Jim as its game, the game itself, I would always get to the same spot in that game and then get stuck and not know what I was supposed to do.
Wait, was the part where you're just a little worm, or the part where you gotta catch the puppies on the mushroom? And if
No, this was just a part in one of almost the maze levels, and I'd always get to the same spot, defeat the person I was supposed to defeat, and then I couldn't ever go any further, or couldn't figure out which way to go. So I usually gave up about there.
I don't think I ever got that far. For me, it was always that part where you're trying to catch the puppies, or else what's his name gets mad.
Yeah.
I never learned anybody's name.
No, you never do. So are we all set with that then?
Oh yeah, that's
All right, well, that was Sega. So why don't we move up to
Super NES.
the Super Nintendo? Oh, geez, there was a lot of games on Super
Oh, yeah.
Nintendo I enjoyed.
That was an age.
It was. I loved the fact that it finally had gotten past the necessity of keeping the dust out of the cartridge and fiddling with the reset button to
yeah.
make it work. That was probably one of its better inventions. Just a simple pair of flaps to keep the dust out. Boy, there was a lot of those that I really enjoyed in that whole area. I honestly don't think I could pick just one in that particular system, because there were a lot that I would place on the same level.
There were quite a few.
Yeah. Or when I move to PlayStation, original PlayStation.
Harvest Moon, Back to Nature, and Sid Meier's Civilization 2.
Interesting. My picks were Final Fantasy VII. Quite probably I would easily say the best of the entire Final Fantasy genre.
I have yet to play that.
You are dead to me.
Hey, they're coming out with a...
Yeah, they're re-releasing it for the 4, or for
Yeah.
the PS4, yep. I'm trying to think of what was the other one that I really enjoyed on the original PlayStation. I actually rather enjoyed Monster Hunter.
That's one of those games I'd heard of, but I hadn't...
Although, to be fair, that might have been PlayStation 2.
I don't know, I mean, it's been around for a while.
It has. I can't remember now, because there's been several in that franchise. But again, I also enjoyed Turok, Dinosaur Hunter. That was actually some fun.
But not Dino Crisis.
No, did not care for that one. No.
Who did, really?
But then again, the Madden series as well. All the Madden footballs across all the different platforms.
I grew out of Madden after the SNES. Like, that was pretty much it for me.
Yeah. See, I walked away from it for a little while, but I've come back to it since.
I was more into FIFA than I was into Madden.
See, I got no love for soccer, no matter what it is.
Oh yeah, I know, but at least with that, it wasn't like, okay, I went from just pressing like 2 or 3 buttons to like a litany of buttons to do things I'm never gonna do.
Yeah.
Whereas with this one, it's like a game about a sport I've never played, so it doesn't feel like, you know, it's growing out of control when it gives me the list of buttons with a whole bunch of things I'm never gonna do. It just feels like, okay, this is how it is, this is how it's always been.
Well, still on the PlayStation 1, another one I liked was Siphon Filter.
I loved it with cheat codes. Just unlock every weapon, infinite ammo, grab that M78.
Yeah, I will admit I went through the game first without doing that, and then went back through it, and I will admit it's a lot of fun doing it.
He was a cheater, so that was how I got introduced to all that awesome.
My favorite part of the whole thing, and my son enjoys it quite a bit as well, is simply holding the taser on someone until they burst into flames.
They just burst into flames, and even then, like sometimes if you're lucky, they'll like fall from wherever they are, and you just get to watch that tiny little ball of flame just hit the ground. Twisted Metal 4.
Oh, jeez, yeah, the Twisted Metals.
Again, you need the cheat codes to beat the game. I don't care who you are, you need infinite lives to beat the game.
All right, well, we've covered PS1. Why don't we move to...
Dreamcast?
I never did anything with the Dreamcast, but if you have something, please, by all means.
Jet Set Radio.
Never heard of it. But then again, I never did anything with the Dreamcast. So.
Basically, it was like, if there's one thing I like, it's kind of like urban sprawl kind of games. And basically, all you do is you ride around, you tag stuff, and you do tricks.
Ah, gotcha. All right, why don't we move to...
PS2?
I was thinking more like maybe N64.
Sure. I forgot about that. Wow.
Yeah. There was a number of games I really liked for the N64. I enjoyed Star Fox 64. I also liked the James Bond GoldenEye.
GoldenEye, yes.
Love that.
No odd job.
Yeah. I just liked getting the code for DK mode, so everybody looks like Donkey Kong, and the paintball mode.
I never did that. All I would do, I'd play the hangar level. I would just hole up in that building and just
wipe them out. Yep.
I could spend a good hour just doing that.
Honestly, it's a good thing that in that game they wrote the software so that the bodies slowly disappear. Otherwise, the stack in front of the door would be 25
You'd be
deep.
trapped. You'd have to
Inside
get
of
some mines to blow up.
Yeah. You'd be dropping grenades just to blow the bodies out from in front of the door. My favorite part though would be in
that was like the only game I think initially where they like had a different animation for like nut shots versus body shots and head shots.
I was gonna say because you could always see them grab for their groin, or my favorite thing to do would be to sneak up behind them, to crouch down and shoot them in the backside, and they'd jump and grab their butt.
I never thought to do that. I was not a subtle person back then.
It was rather funny though to watch it happen, especially in paintball mode.
I can imagine.
So how about we can move to PlayStation 2.
Yeah, because mine was going to be GoldenEye anyway. So
yeah. PlayStation 2, again, I enjoyed the Maddens. There's been a number of PlayStation 2 games. Again, it's hard to narrow them down.
It was a great console.
It was very good. I'm trying to rummage through. I liked the Burnout series.
Burnout.
I enjoyed those. I mean, what's more fun than going 150 miles an hour and purposely smashing into things?
I would have to say Killer 7. And yes, the graphics are god-awful. Yes, it's basically a rail shooter where you're just a person. It can be frustrating, it can be cruel, but it is nonetheless intriguing.
Actually, yeah, as we think about it, yeah, Monster Hunter was definitely for PS2.
There you go.
That's because it was the first one where you could go online and play in a community with other people.
Oh yeah.
So, and very few people actually ever did.
Oh yeah, no, not here. No.
So.
Well, I mean, even back then, our internet was a joke.
Yeah, exactly. So, what about GameCube?
I never really played GameCube, but just because I didn't mention it for the PlayStation, I'm going to throw in Metal Gear Solid.
Yes, Metal Gear Solid. I had forgotten about that. Thank you. That was a good one too.
I mean, say what you will about the sequels, that one had some great villains. I mean, compared to 2, 3, I haven't played anything beyond those, but, I mean, name me a more recognizable villain than Psycho Mantis.
Well, getting back to GameCube, the one that always stuck out to me was Zelda and the Ocarina of Time. That was a fun game.
A very dark game, from what I heard.
Yeah, it did have some very, very dark aspects to it. But I'd also say I didn't care for Majora's Mask only because of the time constraint placed on it. You had exactly 3 days to complete the entire game or you lost.
Well, I mean, you had a time travel spell, didn't you?
No, that was in Ocarina of Time. That was the entire point behind it.
So there was like no ability to go back in time for Majora's?
I do not believe so.
I never played anything after Link to the Past because I didn't have those consoles. So it was just me going, knocking on people's doors. Hi, do you have a kid? Does that kid have, such and such console? Can I play with him on such and such console? Like, that was my friendship back then. It was like, I love you because you have a console I don't, and let me use it.
All right. Well, moving on, I guess a little further here into the more modern age. Why don't we go to the Wii?
Okay, the Wii. Normally, I would just say that Wii tech demo they gave you, but because the sequel that I played is not going to get mentioned. Really, there's like too many better games. I'm just going to put this in an honorable asterisk. D-Blob. You're basically a tiny little blob. You go around, you collect paint, you absorb paint, you turn into colors, you paint buildings because the world has been robbed of color, and that's a tragedy.
Interesting.
It's
well, speaking of being
simplistic.
Robbed of color, that reminds me, of course, of the noir section of Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions,
Yes.
which I enjoyed, which of course actually reminds me of another game from the original PlayStation that I forgot to mention, which was the original Spider-Man game.
Voiced by Stan
the Manly, and the greatest cheat code ever, Eel Gnats.
What is Eel Gnats?
Stan Lee backwards.
No, I mean...
It gives you everything.
Everything?
Everything.
All the suits.
All the suits. In fact, you get to play as, what's his name? I believe it's Captain Universe, where you literally are unstoppable.
I now wish I had not lost that game. I will say this, though. That game had the most stressful final boss.
Yes, I hated running away from, spoiler alert, the Carnage Dr. Octopus, conglomeration.
Dumbest name, scariest fight. Just because of that scream.
Uh-huh. And it shook the whole screen, and it was hard.
No matter how much of a lead you got,
and
it always caught up.
Yeah. But okay, going back to the Wii again. The Wii Sports Resort is actually fun.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
You get to actually sword fight. And
Oh
things,
yeah,
which is
no,
kind of
I
fun.
remember that.
I'm trying to think of some of the others. The actually, to be honest, the Disney Infinity that has been added to that was actually quite a good deal of fun.
And I did like the Smash Brothers that came out for that
Yes.
because of its solo campaign,
Exactly.
where you basically just played around with each character. You got a feel for them.
Yep. Also, one many people may not know of. It's Mickey Mouse.
Oh, the one with the paintbrush?
Yes, I'm trying to remember the name now. I'm drawing a total blank. Boy, that's going to bug me now. That'll bug me to the end of the day, at least.
Yeah.
Especially because my wife really loves that particular game, and she will kick my ass for forgetting the name of it, guaranteed. All right, so I guess we can move from the Wii to PlayStation 3, which is the last console that we currently own. I would say Destiny is a fantastic game. I really enjoy the open world concept that it gives you, along with the interactions that you can have with other players. It's perfect. Some of the controls tend to be a little clumsy sometimes, but not too bad. I also, most people don't, but I actually like Advanced Warfare.
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. A lot of people don't like it. I actually think it's okay, but I don't play the campaigns. I generally play the online version, where you're in a group, against other people online.
Fair enough. For me, it's Valkyria Chronicles. Simply because, I mean, if you haven't figured it out by now, I love games with a very beautiful art aesthetic, and this is some of the best cell shading you will see. Also, the reason it isn't Destiny is because I have both never played it and do not have an online connection. I am one of those Luddites, yes.
And I realized we just forgot, have you ever had any real interaction with the Xbox systems?
360. I own one.
Okay. Well, do you have any games from that? Because I have never had anything to do with the
I
Xboxes.
have legions. BioShock 1. I mean, 2. I mean, it was a different publishing company, so I always had, like, an issue with it, coupled with the fact, like, by the end of 1, like, the whole place is falling apart. And yet, 8 years later, it's still technically standing, and there's still enough people for you to just shoot hordes of people.
Yeah, it kind of loses the suspension of disbelief.
And with Infinite, it's a good game. It just doesn't really feel right. Mm-hmm. I mean, the story, the aesthetic design, that's all very good and well. Just the gameplay of it doesn't mesh.
Well,
However, I will also say, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Spec Ops: The Line. If you want to play a game and you really, really, really want to hate yourself, play Spec Ops: The Line. War is hell, and you will go there.
Nice. Well, I myself, I've never had any interest really in the Xbox anything.
I bought one for my brother. He ended up moving in with me, so I'm like, oh, well, I have my PlayStation 2, but, with this nice shiny Xbox standing right here, and I technically paid for it, so why not give it a spin?
Yeah. Well, see, both of my brothers owned Xboxes, and the grief that they constantly had with them, I just never had any
use for it. Like the original or the 360?
Both. Especially with the Red Rings of Death.
I bought it late enough. Like, I did not buy it even like in the same year. So.
Well, see, even then, my one brother actually sent back 3 of them, and ended up with Red Rings of Death over and over and over again until he finally said enough is enough, and he went over to PlayStation.
No, the worst that happened to me is like literally like 6 months ago. I had to take it in to get it cleaned because we live in filth, abject and utter filth. Let no one tell you otherwise. And it had collected enough dust where it just couldn't read discs.
Oh yeah, that's pretty bad.
Used to have a guy that would do it for me for free, but he moved to Albany, so I had to go and pay $35.
See, I guess that's the nice thing about the PlayStations. I've never had that problem.
Oh no, I used to have that. Like I said, the guy that used to do it for me, like he did it for my PS2.
Yeah.
So.
I've never really had that. I did have a problem with the old, the original. No, excuse me. With the original PlayStations, it didn't like you could play a DVD on it, but it killed the life expectancy of your PlayStation.
Really?
Yeah, they fixed that when they created the thin line.
I did not know that. I mean, I mostly just played CDs on it because if you hit select, you could do like all that weird trippy stuff.
Yeah. They pretty much fixed that with the thin line version that they came out with after that, and you didn't really have to worry about that. But the original, you couldn't play.
Final Fantasy Tactics is another good.
Yes.
Actually, you know what? What is your favorite Final Fantasy game? Period.
7. Without a doubt, 7.
I would have to say 9.
But then again, you never played 7, you freaking heretic.
You are a sassy man today.
I am. I think it's the migraine. That and the online Twitter fight I got into.
Favorite computer game?
Favorite computer game? Command and Conquer.
Command and Conquer.
Or The Sims.
The Sims is good. I would say Thomas Was Alone. You're a block, and yet you have feelings. And a lovely British man who narrates everything you do.
Oh boy.
Oh, no. It's very nice. It's a simple platformer.
Uh-huh.
It came out, I think, like the year before the Stanley Parable, which, again, also looks good. Wish I could play it. No, I share that computer with like 5 other people.
Oh yeah, I know the feeling.
So.
I know the feeling. My phone and my Kindle have become my internet access.
I have to share an iTunes library.
Oof.
I have 5,000 songs to choose from, 2,433 of which are mine.
So you don't even get the larger portion, then you still have the minority portion.
Oh yeah, well part of that's just because I'm more pick and choosy, and my brother's more like, okay, I'll take all the songs from this album regardless of how many of them I listen to, just because it's simpler. But I listen to podcasts. Well, for me, I listen to podcasts, so I try to keep a lot of space free for that.
As do I. Which we should maybe we could do a show about other podcasts. Like, I've been actually catching up on the Honey Badger podcasts.
Ah, Honey Badger, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, they were the ones that were kicked out of the Canadian Comic-Con up there not long ago because they dared to speak up. And the funny part was they used their quietest person to speak up, apparently, and got them all kicked out for their particular views. They were censored for their views, which I listened to it. I disagree with quite a bit of their politics and things like that, but when I do agree with them, I agree with them wholeheartedly. But that's the point about speeches.
Oh yeah.
You listen to all the sides, and whether you agree or you disagree, everybody has that right to give their opinion on it.
Exactly.
They have their right to their speech.
I will say this. For me, it's a lot simpler. It's Nerdist, Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Rooster Teeth podcast.
There's quite a few I listen to.
I am recent to the podcast game. So
listen, mine vary.
I mean, once I learned they were free, I'm like, well,
yeah.
it'd be wasteful not to. Yes, because of that, I am now a crazy person. Because when you see me walking my dog, I stop, and all of a sudden, I am just like bending over, slapping my knee, just laughing like I have never laughed before. I look like a crazy person.
Yeah, there's a few of them like that for me as well. I'll be talking to myself while listening to it, and people will give me that funny look.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but then again, I get a lot of funny looks just walking around anyway, so. I think it's that I'm translucent, so.
Yeah, they're like just looking around, trying to see.
Yeah. Wondering if I'm some kind of strange hologram or some kind of.
Wondering whose grave they stepped over for you to appear in front of them.
Yes. Oh. some asking me if I know Casper the Friendly Ghost, things like that.
God,
Or if that was
a weird movie.
yes, or if maybe that was me that was featured in the Disney movie there,
Oh, wow.
Haunted Mansion.
Well, I never saw that, thankfully. And I never seen Pluto Nash either.
Neither have I, and I don't have any interest in Pluto Nash. Sorry.
How did that come to be? I mean, you gotta wonder.
Money. They thought they could make money. Otherwise, it doesn't exist.
How? Though? I mean,
Hoping
it doesn't
to-
even make sense. I mean, it's like Ted 2.
You're trying to
This
you're
does
trying
not.
to push sense into the senseless, logic to the illogical. It doesn't work. All right. Well, on that note, because we have now gone far afield from our
We have
original.
broken a new world record. Be thankful.
Yes, we have now, I believe, at least doubled our longest show to date. So yes, sorry for the torture you've been put through for yet again.
For those of you that stayed through, you get a cookie.
Yes, feel free to go to your kitchen, open the cookie jar, and take one out. We said it's okay.
Until 2 weeks from now, this is Thew.
And this is Drew, and enjoy your weeks.
Sayonara.